So Canada hits back as a trade war brews over these new tariffs from President Trump. The Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, is now calling for Canadians to boycott U.S. alcohol. The province is removing American alcohol brands from government store shelves. It also is banning liquor from Republican-led red states. Premier David Eby joins us now. Mr. Eby, you just heard the Vice President echo what the President has said, that Canada and Mexico have been taking advantage of the United States, in their words. Your response?
Yeah, it's hard to hear, John. For so many Canadians, we grew up and we've only known one relationship with the United States. We've got friends, we've got family members. We've had an incredible relationship. We learned about the Canada arm on U.S. shuttles going up. To hear that the perspective is that we've been taking advantage of the Americans is bizarre. We provide what America needs to grow. We provide metals, minerals, lumber, energy. We're really good partners. We fight around the world to protect democracy. Americans are our friends. We really hope that the president takes this opportunity to revisit this decision and focus on our shared concerns on China, on transnational organized crime. These are areas where we can do a lot of work together.
It is perhaps understandable that your country might retaliate with tariffs of its own, but you in particular have suggested that you want this red state boycott, if you will, boycotting goods from red states in America. President Trump didn't single out British Columbia, for instance. He signed tariffs on all of Canada. So why go after red states?
Oh, we understand here in Canada, and I certainly understand here in British Columbia, we're tiny compared to the United States. You guys are huge. When an action like this is taken against our country, we have to fight smarter. And when we target specifically the decision makers that are supporting this trade action against Canada, despite our shared history, despite our many ties, despite the fact that businesses on both sides and consumers, families on both sides rely on the low prices that our relationship brings, we have to take action. We don't want this fight. We didn't sign up for this. In fact, I want to work with the president on fighting transnational organized crime. Let's get back to that. Let's get back to our shared relationship that delivers affordable prices for families. Your house prices are going to go up. Your fuel prices are going to go up. Your electricity prices are going to go up. Your grocery prices. Pasta is made out of Canadian wheat. For Pete's sake, why are we doing this? Let's get back to working together and focusing on areas of shared concern that we have around the globe. I would very much like for Canada to be working with the president on those things instead.
Joining me right now, we have the Canadian ambassador to the United States, Kirsten Hillman. Ambassador, welcome. Thank you on this very important day. There's a lot of questions. I need you to help us understand what is happening here, because Canadian officials, they've been in talks with the Trump administration, and yet these tariffs are set to take effect on Tuesday. First of all, can I even ask if there's a status of negotiations? Are there negotiations underway?
Well, what we have been doing, and thank you very much for having me, what we have been doing since December, since the president, even before the president took office and was expressing concerns around the northern border, illegal migration and fentanyl, we have been in discussions with his team on that. And just to put this into context, obviously, these are important issues. They're important to Canada. They're important to the United States. But Canada is not a source of fentanyl into the U.S. Less than 0.5% of what the fentanyl that has been seized in the U.S. has come from Canada, and less than 1% of the people who come into the United States illegally come from the northern border. So it's a very small issue. That being said, important. And as I say, border security is important on both sides of the border. We only want people in our country who have the legal right to be there as well, and we certainly don't want drug trafficking into our country. So we have been in discussion with the Trump team since December about the president's concerns, and we acted on those concerns. We have invested 1.3 billion Canadian dollars, which is about $1 billion US, in buying new equipment, getting new infrastructure, new technology for the border, and then new partnerships with the U.S. and with the Trump administration to root out organized crime and fentanyl. And we're already seeing results. We had, since about 4 months ago, we've had an 89% drop in irregular, illegal migration from Canada into the United States. And remember, again, it's an 89% drop from less than 1% of your total flows. So lots of success, lots of results already, lots of new partnerships that have already started, had a really good, important exchange with Tom Homan, the border czar, on Friday, and senior members of his team walking through plans that we can do together. We've got a Canadian team and a team from the White House going to China to talk to them about precursors to really get at that problem. So in that sense, I don't know if I'd call those negotiations, because really it's more of a collaboration, but that's been ongoing for a while now.
You mentioned December was the start. Do you know if the president, either prior to his inauguration 2 weeks ago now or since, has been involved directly in the talks?
So the president has talked to our prime minister about this, and my understanding is that he has been briefed on it. That's what I've been told, on the plan and on the results that have already been achieved.
Okay. And yet the tariffs go into effect on Tuesday. Let me mention what J.D. Vance, our vice president, posted just a short time ago. Here's the quote. Spare me the sob story about how Canada is our best friend. I love Canada and have many Canadian friends, but is the government meeting their NATO target for military spending? Are they stopping the flow of drugs into our country? I'm sick of being taken advantage of. You've just very eloquently shared the stats about particularly drugs coming into the country from Canada, and they less than 1% in terms of fentanyl crossing your border into ours. But your reaction to this, and what is the United States telling you it would take to stop the tariffs from going into effect on Tuesday? Is there a chance that would happen?
I mean, we're being told that these tariffs are being put into place because of the border, because of fentanyl and because of irregular, illegal migration. And as I say, we have really leaned into that. We have expended a lot of money to put more boots on the ground, to buy more equipment, to enhance our partnership with U.S. law enforcement and border enforcement. And we have asked, what more would you like us to do? Is there more that you need? Is there something missing here? And, you know, there's nothing that has come back as an additional ask. So we're focusing on what is being asked in relation to this specific action. And as I say, I feel that we have done a lot, where we think that we're obviously demonstrating results already in terms of the concern that the president has raised. But if there's more, let's talk about it. But to date, there hasn't been more that's been put on the table in this particular, on this particular topic.
And yet that quote that I read you from our vice president, how do you interpret the tone of that? There are a couple of others that are similar in tone that I'm looking at.
I don't know. I mean, I think that those are questions for them. I think that what I can say is that we are coming at this discussion with a full spirit of openness and willingness to collaborate and discuss any concern or issue or request that comes from the Trump administration. But we need to have a conversation about that is organized, right? The conversation around the border was fairly clear. What they were hoping for was clear, and we responded. If there are other things that are of interest, they haven't been articulated to us formally. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if they are.
Do you know what the president means when he says that the U.S. is subsidizing Canada to the tune of $200 billion?
I'm afraid I can't answer that question. Canada and the United States have a vast trading relationship. We have almost $1 trillion trading relationship. That trading relationship is complementary. So you sell us more manufactured products than we sell to you. You have a manufacturing surplus with Canada, a services surplus with Canada, equipment, vehicles, all this sort of thing. We buy more from you than we sell to you. But in terms of energy, a third of what we sell into the United States are energy products. And those energy products, quite frankly, if you talk to our oil producing regions of the country, they feel they're selling them at a very fair, if not discounted rate, because we don't have a lot of infrastructure or geography to sell them to anyone else. And that product fuels your businesses, fuels your refineries, and keeps energy prices low for American consumers and American businesses. So I think that if you talk to our energy sector, I think they might feel that if there's any country that is getting a bargain in this situation, it is probably the United States.
No, I'm not concerned. We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that. But long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world. We have deficits with almost every country. Not every country, but almost. And we're going to change it. It's been unfair. That's why we owe $36 trillion. We have deficits with everybody. We help everybody. We've been helping everybody for years. And to be honest, I don't think they appreciate it. So we're going to change that. We're going to change it fast. We're going to make America great again. We have to focus on our country. We have tremendous potential if properly used, and we have to focus on our country. Tremendous deficits with China, tremendous deficits with the European Union, tremendous deficits with Mexico and Canada.
So, folks, Canada is scoring an early win in this tariff fight, and they're doing it by breaking down two major things. I've talked about this earlier today, but two major things in the Trump tariff fight. First, they've already got him to concede. They've already got him to roll back some of the tariffs. Remember, he was promising 25% on every single little thing that crossed from Canada and Mexico, but we're talking about Canada here in particular, from Canada into the U.S. 25%, no exceptions. But then he said, well, there's an exception, and it's oil. It's crude oil. Because he realizes that gas prices will rise immediately, and people will notice that more than, say, chip prices rising or something like that, right? So that's already a big blow. He's already shown he's willing, before it even kicks in, to compromise, to back down. But now it's also hurting him because he's been forced to admit this will cause pain. He's been forced to admit it. And that's a big blow because the whole predication on this was I can do this and there's no cost to America because the foreigners pay the tariffs and Americans won't even notice it. But what he's actually saying now, and they got him on camera, is that no, there will be pain. And so what he's effectively saying is, yeah, the plan that I promised would have all upside and no downside is going to have some downside, and MAGA's not going to like hearing that. And especially the non-MAGA voters that made Trump president, right? The voters that switched from the Democrats to the Republicans, or the non-voters in 2020 that chose to vote this time but vote for Trump for some inexplicable reason, they're going to be pissed. They're not MAGA diehards. They voted for cheaper eggs, and everything's going to be more expensive now. Canada has won the first round.